Disney, you're killing me today. Had its show lined up, had everything planned out, and then you drop this Disney Spring stuff on us. Let's see what we can get done tonight, knowing what we know right now. Hey everybody, it's Matt with the DPI Podcast. If you like what you hear or see today, definitely hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and get notified the next time that we go live or post any new content. We are a relatively new stream, so get used to us because we're going to be around for a while, and I think we've got a pretty fun show for you guys. So what happened today was that Disney decided that they wanted to release the opening date for Disney Springs. We know this is going to be a phased opening, and we know that this is going to take a long time for everything to get online, especially when you're talking about land and the cruises. We'll get that here in a little bit. But as far as what we know, let's start with next week. Disney Shanghai is opening on May 11th. We've seen a lot from them over the last few weeks. We've been talking about it on the podcast about they are putting the things in place that we think are going to transfer over to the North American parks. Namely being the social distancing queues and some of the enhanced sanitation procedures that we've seen them use in the soft opening for cast members. Now, with that being said, I think they're doing some things that won't fly in the States, like the QR code, the temperature checks, the mandatory temperature checks, and the mandatory wearing of masks. I don't know how far those are going to fly when they get to the States, but we're going to see. Disney can get away with a little bit more because I think their guest population is a little bit more understanding than most. So we have Shanghai open on Monday. What we forget sometimes is that their downtown Disney and their main hotel have been open for about a month now. And they didn't have a big grand opening date or anything like that. They just kind of slowly opened, and as people found out, they started to come back to this area. But it hasn't been anything that was like super broadcast or anything like that. So I was really surprised today when Disney releases the opening date for Disney Springs in 2 weeks. What that's done now is it's given people 2 weeks to plan on being at the opening of Disney Springs. All that's going to do is draw a crowd now. The one thing that we're worried about in this coronavirus pandemic is crowds of people. You hear about capacity measures and social distancing and all this, and then we get an opening date for Disney Springs, and all it's going to do is going to draw a crowd. So May the 20th, Disney Springs is going to phase open. They really didn't give any information on stores or anything like that. I think if it's a non-Disney owned entity, it's going to be an open at your own discretion type deal, based off of the guidelines in Florida and Orange County at the time. But I think at that point they're going to be close to phase 2 or 3. I think it'll be their phase 2. So you're going to see a little bit more with the restaurants and that kind of stuff, as far as like 50% capacity in the restaurants, 50% capacity in the stores. I don't think they can have bar seating or bars open yet. But the Orange County Task Force has really kind of laid out guidelines for that opening for the Orlando area. From there, now we're waiting on news for Disney World. I really still think it's going to be early June, even though now we're starting to get some reports of some early June reservations being canceled by Disney. Unconfirmed on our end, we did have a hotel guest for early June, and we'd already moved them. It was a first time visit. We definitely had that conversation at, hey, this is not going to be the best time for you to take your family. It's not going to be the Disney experience that you're being sold on. Let's move this trip back. So, as far as being able to confirm a cancellation in early June on our end, we can't do that right now. But I have seen it on a couple of different sites. So it'll be interesting to see what's going on there. So now let's shift a little bit of our attention over to Disneyland out in California. And really, what we're hearing out there is all about this California phased reopen and how slow the phases are. Really, we're looking August-ish for gatherings of more than 250 people to even be allowed, and that's going to really delay the opening of any stadium, any arena, any music venue, any theme park. In all intents and purposes, the beaches shouldn't open, because I think when you're looking at the beaches up and down the coast of California, some of those are 40,000 people beaches, and how are you going to enforce social distancing, or how are you going to recommend social distancing on those when you just have people just pouring into the beaches because they just need to get out of their house? So we saw what happened at Huntington Beach when they opened it. I think it was last weekend, and it was a madhouse. So land is going to be a different animal, even though I thought Disney had the better opportunity to open land first, because of the local population that visits land. Land is more of a local park. World is more of a traveler park. So land, I don't see opening, much before the beginning of August, if it's even open that early. It may be later than that. And then from there, we have cruise lines. Bob Chapek on the quarterly earnings call had a little bit of a Freudian slip when he was talking about it and said, hey, this is going to be the last of our entities to open up, and we think it's going to be open up in a couple months. So that basically boxed in all the other entities into that June-July range. So World, and this is just thought process here, but World, I really think, is going to be a much longer open than everybody thinks it's going to be. So normally this is where I'd bring on Peter with Princesses and the Mouse, but he's working with a client right now, so I'm going to play the sounder, but we're going to come back to me and we're going to finish our conversation about World.
Turn your Disney dream into a magical Disney vacation with Princesses and the Mouse Disney Travel.
So yeah, Disney World. I really feel like Disney World is going to open up park by park, except for maybe the middle two parks. So I think you're going to see Hollywood Studios open first. It's already got the digital queue lines, the virtual queue lines. For Rise of the Resistance. So they've got the geofence set up for that to work within the park. I also think with it having the fewest number of rides, it's going to be one of the easier parks to set up. And I just feel like it's the best option that they have right now. It's bus and Skyliner into the park, unless you're going to walk from one of the boardwalk resorts or Swan and Dolphin, because I don't think they're going to run the ferries for a little while. But it's one of those parks that it has enough there that you can spread people out, but it's like a 3/4 day park for most people. The addition of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge helped it be a full day park, but I think for most people it's still a 3/4 day park. So to keep crowds down, it makes a lot of sense for that to be the first park that opens, and for them to learn on that park. Then I think you're going to see a combination of Animal Kingdom and Magic Kingdom open up. Animal Kingdom just because it's bus only traffic back there. So transportation wise, it's easier. Um, Magic Kingdom's probably going to open up without the monorail or the ferry boat running. So think about Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, 4th of July, how they handle the crowds with those. And they have buses that are running from the Ticket and Transportation Center to Magic Kingdom and, the other way as well, to help get crowds in and out without everybody trying to get across using the monorail and the ferry. So I think you're going to see it open up like that until they can figure out how they're going to use the monorail. The monorail is probably going to be like an every other car, one family per door type situation, to try and keep the crowds down as much as possible on that. So, and then from there we have Epcot. I really think they're going to hold off on Epcot as long as possible. It just makes sense to do that so that they can work on the construction at that front entrance and get those bottlenecks to the left and to the right of Spaceship Earth taken care of prior to them bringing crowds in through that front entrance. I could see them opening up World Showcase and bringing everybody in through the backside. You could bus people into Hollywood Studios and then have them use the Skyliner over to Epcot. It would make sense that way. Logistically, it'd be a little rough trying to get people through security and an entry gate back there, but I think for the most part, since you're not going to have the boats coming in, you'll have walkers coming from the boardwalk resorts, and then you're going to have the Skyliner. So it's going to be steady and not those big masses coming, when you have 3 or 4 buses let off at the same time that hit the gates at the front of the park. So, there's a lot going on. I think this is a good time to really think about, what makes sense for them going for their full open. Their full open, I really feel like it's going to be around July 4th. I really think that there's going to be a push by the government for cities and towns to keep their July 4th celebrations going, just to have that piece of unity through the fireworks and everything like that. So I think what you're going to see with Disney is kind of the same thing. That might be the first time that we see fireworks at Disney, since they shut down, in the middle of March. So look for July 4th to be that kind of, hey, we're all back. Maybe the parks are at 75% capacity, and we're going to put up a fireworks display tonight. But, really you got to focus on, how do they make it known that, we still have to social distance. We can't just all pack into the hub, watch the fireworks and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm interested to see. If I'm not on a plane the day that they open, I'm going to be down there sometime this summer to check it out. So really want to see what's going on down there as they open and how they're handling this, and what the new park experience might be like, because I think virtual queues are coming whether this happened or not. So it'll be interesting to see how that works and how many virtual queues you can actually get in at a time, and all that, and if they're going to prioritize the ability for on-site guests. They've got a lot to figure out with that. So I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us today. Again, this is the Disney Planning Insights podcast. We are affiliated with Princesses and the Mouse Disney Travel. So if you do have any travel questions, anything like that, we can definitely answer those for you as well. So definitely hit us up in the chat or send us an email at patmdisneytravel@gmail.com. I'm Matt with the DPI podcast. Thank you for joining us. You guys all have a wonderful night.